Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the Ambassador of Chile, I think, the President of UTT, other speakers, the CEO of Energy Chamber, Tax Driver, ladies and gentlemen. I have 20 minutes, so let me get started quickly. I'm going to talk about energy efficiency and renewable energy in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. So I'm going to talk first about, next slide, let me see. All right, the introduction. I'll talk about the energy costs in the Caribbean, the energy intensity, energy efficiency. I'm going to mention Germany, because Germany is the world leader in renewable energy, right? Just briefly. And some of the information I took from here, those who have been attending the Energy Chamber annual conference, well, you all will see some of the things I've done, right? Because they have been at the forefront of energy efficiency and renewable energy with the Green Day program. But I'm going to talk about Germany, and then I'll talk about the Caribbean. I recently did a consultancy for the International Renewable Energy Association, IRENA. They asked us to look at 9 countries to analyze the policies of renewable energy and energy efficiency. So we are just about finished it. So a lot of the information I have here, I just pulled out a few so you can see what's going on in the Caribbean, and then we come back and look at the context of Trinidad and Tobago. Can I use this? Yeah, okay. Next slide. Next slide, yes. Right, so the Caribbean islands, energy cost is very high, as we know. This is an old slide from the Energy Chamber. This is before the oil went to $50 or $25 a barrel. So Barbados was 35 cents, Guyana 35 cents, US per kilowatt hour, okay? Now, the thing about the utilities in the Caribbean, there's a link between the price of electricity and the price of oil. About 60 to 72% of the price of the electric utility cost is the cost of fuel. Okay? So it was very simple for us. I think I used 65% here. So I said, listen, because my business is energy efficiency, and I want to make sure I can survive. So basically, we looked at if $100 a barrel, the Turks and Caicos was 50 cents, Cayman Islands. If it's $75, 50 and 25. And right now we are hovering around 50. So this is about roughly the price of energy in the different islands. Okay, still very high. And we look at the bottom here, we're not changing. Trinidad and Tobago, we don't change. Okay, so basically we are constant, but the other islands, energy is so high that renewable energy will survive, energy efficiency will survive, even down to 25 cents, right? $25 a barrel is still very high. Okay, so there's a potential for energy efficiency, and renewable energy is there. Okay. And then this old slide from 2013 Energy Chamber again shows different European, the OECD countries. This is from 2011, IEA. But Germany was very high. Germany was 32 cents residential. So they are very high as well. So when we think that we are the highest in the Caribbean, the Europeans pay a lot for energy as well. And then the energy intensity. UK 10.9 GDP per unit of energy use. We are 1.5. So we waste a lot. We are energy inefficient in Trinidad and Tobago. So let me just review some of what's going on with Germany. Germany has an energy policy called the energy transformation. It's called the Energiewende. That's how it is, right? And some of the targets, they set targets. Just remember that, they set targets. So the target was a third renewable energy share by 2020. And they are more than a third now. I think they're 33% to 35%. Okay, so they're above that before 2020. Then they have one for energy efficiency, reduce primary energy consumption by 20% by 2020 from 2008 levels. I think they're on the way. I don't think they achieved that as yet, but they're on the way to achieving that. Okay? And then they have a CO2 target, and this was done long ago. 40% emission reduction by 2020 compared with 1990 levels. So they set targets, right? I'm just giving you a context of what the international people do. Right? And one of the things, this is from 2010, the ownership structure of renewable energy in 2010 in Germany. Okay, so 40% were private individuals. Okay, they create the environment for private people to put panels on the roof and different things that we talked about early on. Farmers 11%, investment funds and banks 11%, project development 14%, and the big four here, 6% are renewable energy. The big four is the 4 utilities. Okay, now I showed this slide a couple of years ago. I think there was the guy from PowerGen, the CEO was there, and I said, look what happened here. With the 4 big utilities, Vattenfall, Fortum, RWE, E.ON, their return on capital employed dropped. It's dropping, and they're in big trouble. Well, we see in Barbados, Light and Power in big trouble now too, right? right? Because they are fighting with the ministry. They were fighting with the ministry. I'm not sure if they're still fighting now, because they were losing market share. If you talk to Light and Power, the demand from Barbados went from 165 megawatts down to, I think they're under 150 or 147 megawatts. They lost about 20 megawatts due to renewable energy and energy efficiency. Okay? So it affects the utilities, and that's something we need to consider. I think we have Mr. Mark here from TNTech, something he needs to worry about as well. All right, so let's talk about the Caribbean situation, okay? We did 9 countries for IRENA. This is Bahamas. The first one was, I'll talk about Bahamas. They have a goal. So their ministry have national policy 2013 goals. I think they got help from the GIZ, the German Technical Cooperation people, to develop this. And they have 4 different goals. I'm not going to read through all this, but it has to do with awareness, making people aware. But number 4, we'll have a dynamic and appropriate governance, institutional, legal, and regulatory framework advancing future developments. Okay? And out of number 4, they established a new Electricity Sector Act, establishment of Utility Regulation Competition Authority, or URCA, competitor in the sector. So the policy, what I'm getting at here, Germany did the policy, the islands are doing the policy, right? You have to have the policy. Let's look at Barbados. Now, Barbados has success of solar water heaters. Why did Barbados have success of solar water heaters, right? We have to understand why. They are 4th globally per capita in installed capacity of solar water heaters. In 1970, when they had the oil crisis, right, the government did a number of drivers. They gave tax incentive for solar water equipment, mandatory installation of solar water heaters in new buildings, and tax disincentives for electric water heaters. So they raised the duty, import duty on electric water heaters. And that all helped drive that solar water heating industry in Barbados. And all of the above was done before national energy policy in Barbados. Okay? All right, so Barbados National Energy Policy, they have a 2006, I believe it's a draft national energy policy, right? And it's now being updated to National Sustainable Energy Policy, but it's not yet in effect. But their target is 29% energy production from renewable energy by 2029, and they currently have over 10 megawatts, okay? And I told you about the drop in demand by the utility, and they have a renewable energy rider tariff, right, with net billing policy. Anybody up to 150 kilowatts could get onto the grid, and they have interconnection standards. These are different things they did in place that we don't have yet, okay? And then they have a smart energy fund for US 10 million. I think it's finished now, and they're going to extend it to get financing for projects. Dominican Republic, we do work in Dominican Republic, a small Trinidad company, with me from University of the West Indies, not University of Trinidad and Tobago, but where you can do a lot, I'll tell you just now, right? For Dominican Republic, they had an energy policy since 2004, okay? They're the largest economy in the Caribbean. They had 13 private generating utilities. Now I think we have 3 or 4, PowerGen, Trinity Power, and TGU, right? So they had 13, right? Then they had a law with 25% RE by 2025. They gave incentive. Now this is good for us to learn from. The incentive was 100% tax exemption for renewable energy technologies, 10-year tax exemption for solar RE electricity, 70% tax credit for self-generators. And then they had a 10-year feed-in tariff program. But some of the current situation is this. The government was losing money in tax. I remember when I did my first project there, it was in Punta Cana. The people were pushing me to get equipment delivered real fast. They paid very well because it was coming to the deadline of the when they had the incentive for them to do that. So they were losing tax. They removed the 10-year tax exemption for renewable generators. They removed it, right? Also, too, the tax credit was scaled back from 75%, so now it's 40%. Okay? I remember Tommy Johnson, a fellow member of the Energy Chamber, was telling me years ago when he was jumping on board. He said, Andre, the government law here was 150%, I think, tax for if you did energy efficiency things. He said, Andre, imagine if all my industrial people want to change the insulation in their factory. Now is the best time for them to do that. The government will lose a lot of money. And we saw what happened in Dominican Republic. So these things have to be thought of very carefully. Okay? Oh yeah. No minimum energy performance standards. In fact, we're doing another project for CARICOM and RITA, looking at minimum energy performance standards for buildings in the Caribbean. We just about finished that one as well. But nobody checks, so there's no benchmarking, nobody knows what's going on. Even to get information from different ministries, Jamaica, Barbados, even Trinidad and Tobago, is hard to get. The information is just not there. We don't know the building stock we have, how energy efficient it is. We don't keep that type of information. Jamaica, they have a national energy policy, 2009 to 2030, into effect in 2010. They have 5 sub-policies. 2 of them is a draft renewable energy policy with a target. The energy conservation and efficiency policy 2015. They don't have no set targets. Nobody, I don't think anybody in the Caribbean has a set target for energy efficiency like how the Germans do. Okay? And it's the lowest hanging fruit, as the previous speaker mentioned. Incentive, they have a net billing program, they have no import duties, 100% tax write-off, so they have incentives, and they have finance involved. They have the Jamaican Development Bank provide funds. I think they give 100% financing now, 100%. When I talk to people from the IFC, who's give 100%? They want to give 90%, 100%. So they're in the right direction, right? They have achieved a lot. They're going towards 130 megawatts of renewable energy. And look at the model they're using. Germany has, yes, they have large-scale plans, but they have the people involved. Jamaica's pushing large-scale. Jamaica could do it large-scale. So they had like the Wington Wind Farm, and there have a few other projects, large-scale farm. The small ones, because it's the policy and the procedures and regulations not in place yet, not growing as fast as it grew in Germany. Okay? They have an energy efficiency drive. They got funds from the IDB for insulating buildings. Similar to, the UK had part when people did insulating buildings in the UK. Well, they're doing that now. They're using energy efficient air conditioning and glazing, right? And they have a lot of increased capacity building. And this is something, Mr. President, you need to look at capacity building. Another part of my IRENA project is looking at the training being provided. Right? And I could talk about that's a different story, okay? But training needs to be done a lot, because what is being done now is insufficient to grow the industry in the Caribbean and increase renewable energy and energy efficiency financing. So look at Trinidad and Tobago. Oh yeah, this is a project we're doing. I just want to mention it with it's the Obama project, the Energy and Climate Partnership for the Americas. It's with the Florida International University. We're doing with FIU, and they look at 3 cities, Port of Spain, 1 in Chile, and 1 in Brazil. And the results, some preliminary results we got from that. We look at how to save energy. Now, this is a horrible site. If you go to Germany, you're not seeing this. It looks pretty. But if I went to Germany, Frankfurt last year, you ain't seeing this. No, they're smarter than us. All right? But basically, it's all here, but it's a project we're doing, and we do some private projects in some government institutions. And basically, we got over 30% energy, low cost, no cost. From low cost, no cost, and we got over 30%. In one health center, we got 39% energy savings from simple little things. So we cannot write out energy efficiency. In fact, my company does energy efficiency all through the Caribbean. I realized I can even survive on energy efficiency here in Trinidad because we waste so much. Okay? Discussion and conclusion. So from what I've seen from our IRENA study, there are a number of things, right? You need a working energy policy. You need incentives. You need disincentives. You need capacity building, financing, continuous review of policies. You need to review and see where you want to make changes. You need ESCO development. That's a new thing now we are seeing. In fact, some of you here probably going to the St. Lucia next week for ESCO training program. And you need codes and standards. So I have young teenage children. For the younger ones here, there's this lady called Megan Trainor who does singing. And she has a song called No. So I call this my Megan Trainor slide, right? Do we have a working policy? No. Do we have incentives? Well, I couldn't say no here, because you can't get back when you do a slow water, you can claim back tax. So I put a small yes there. Right? Do we have disincentives? No. Capacity building? We have some, but Mr. President, I've done a study of all the training towards. Even I was secretary of AWE in Atlanta in the 1990s. There's a program that Lockjack, and anybody from Lockjack school here? Right. They run, and they train a lot of people on energy auditing. And I also train people, MSCs, with Dr. Harak Singh in physics department. Some of my students here, right? And I know energy auditing. And so Lockjack did, and I think 35% of the 60 people passed. I was sitting next to one at a UN conference last week, and he told me how the first 2 days in his 1-week program, he said he didn't understand anything. And then he went on the internet and read about it. But I think he passed. You can't learn energy auditing in 5 days and do an exam and pass, right? Even my students, some of them, only those who were the engineers, put their hand in the panel. The others didn't want to put their hand in the panel. So there's a lot of things that you cannot be certified and carry that name out there. And so it's a big opportunity for the university. And I see it all through the Caribbean, right? The quality of the people being certified is not there. You all need to take up the challenge. Financing, no. Policy review and updating, no. ESCO development, maybe a small yes, but no. And codes and standards, no. Right, so we have nothing. All right, yeah. So conclusion, they asked me to talk about 10% renewable energy by 2021. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible, right? That's why I have always said, with large-scale utility renewable energy, if you have the money, you could do anything, right? You have the money and you have the land, you could put down renewable energy and finish it in 5 years' time, right? But to get the way that the Germans did it, it takes time. Do we have the will, the first speaker said that, to do it? I don't think so. Can we put in policy and adapt and stick to it? No. We did one 5 years ago, but the ESCOs, nothing happened to it, right? I'm speaking the truth. All right? So large-scale utility is probably the best way for us at this time. All right, so before I end, you want to know who's Andre Escalante? Let me throw a little marketing here. We have done renewables. Energy efficiency is our thing, but we've done renewables. The first solar building in the Caribbean in 30 years, because Tom Adams did one in 30 years. We did a digital headquarters in Kingston, Jamaica. The solar air conditioning, 150 tons. We did that one. Not feasible, but we did it. Digital wanted to do it. The first biomass cooling project in the Caribbean is in Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo. It runs on biomass, 1,600 tons of cooling, which is about 4 times this university, 3 times this university of cooling. We did it, it runs on wood chips, right, biomass. We did it, technologies there. The first combined cooling heat and power plant in Punta Cana. If any of you go for vacation in Punta Cana, you'll be cool with our equipment. They use the waste heat from the generator, right? And they pipe it, hot water from the waste heat, 4 kilometers to the different buildings, and we have our equipment cooling the people in Melia, NH Resort, some other ones as well. And Mona Campus, we have phase 1 of our combined cooling heat and power plant that cools the medical complex, the law faculty, and a whole bunch of other buildings down inside there. So basically, and that's the end of my thing. My presentation, I think it can be done, but large scale. To get it small, we have to get real serious to get small scale and get people involved. Thank you very much.